Hello, my name is Konstantin. In this series of short lessons, I will explain you all the aspects of JSight API language, so you can describe your APIs in pretty simple and concise way. In this video, I will explain you the very basic concepts of JSight, directives and schemas. Let's start with a simple example. I will use JSight online editor, which is on editor.jsight.io, but of course you can use any text editor you want. By the way, this online editor is open source. You can find its code on GitHub and you can join our team and contribute to it to make it even better. So, when you describe your API, first of all, you have to write these words. JSight 0.3. It means that you're going to use JSight API language version 0.3, its current version for today. Then you can describe your API. Let's imagine that our API provides method get on endpoint /gets/id. And if you request this endpoint with this method, our API will respond you with 200 status code, and in the body of this response must be some get object. It will be an object with two properties, ID, for example 1, 2, 3, and name, for example Tom. So that's all. We have described our example API. And now I can tell you about two basic things which will help you to understand what happens here. Directives and schemas. Directives. Everything you encounter in JSight API language are directives. For example, here is directive JSight, here is directive get, here is directive 200. All the directives have the same structure. It consists of keyword, parameters, annotation, and body. 4 parts. Keyword. Keyword is the name of the directive. For example, directive JSight has a keyword JSight. Directive get has a keyword get. Directive 200 has a keyword 200. I have to mention that JSight API language is case sensitive, so you have to write keywords in the exact case. The second part of directives after keyword is parameters. For example, directive JSight has a parameter 0.3. Directive get has parameter path. Directive 200 doesn't have any parameter. Parameters must be on the same line as a keyword, and they must be separated by spaces, like in Linux console commands. The third part of directive is an annotation. Here you don't see any annotation. Let's write some. Annotation must be on the same line after parameters. You write annotation like this, 2 slashes and then some text. For example, get a cat by its ID. Annotations look like C++ comments. So you can use 2 slashes, for example, or you can use asterisk and slash and make it multi-line annotation. But annotations are not comments. It's very important because comments is something which is invisible for parser. Parser just skips any comments. But annotations are visible by parser and are used by parser. For example, here you can see that this text is rendered in the documentation. So get a cat by its ID, and here you can see get a cat by its ID. So annotation is a part of your documentation, and this annotation describes this directive get. And the fourth part of a directive is its body. A directive can have several types of bodies. To be exact, 3 types of bodies. First type of body is no body. For example, a directive JSight doesn't have any body, it just doesn't require it. Second type of body is child directives. For example, directive get has body with child directive 200. So its directive gets body. And 200 directive is a child directive of directive get, and get directive is a parent directive of directive 200. I have to mention here that in the JSight API language, it doesn't matter the indentation of your lines. Here, for example, I used indentation just for convenience, but I can get rid of the indentation of the fourth line, and you see that nothing changed. That's because the parser understands which directive is child and which directive is parent directive just by context. And the third type of body is a schema. And here directive 200 has that type of body, is a schema from line 5 to line 8. So you see, the body is always on the next line after directives keyword. JSight API language has not much directives, and you can find the full list of all directives in specification. So just click here, JSight API specification, and you find the reference of all directives here. Now let's talk about the second basic concept of JSight, about schemas. Schema is a set of requirements which are applied to some data. JSight API language supports different types of schemas, but the very important and the schema by default is JSight schema. The main JSight schema's principle is that the core of the schema is an example of some valid data. And here you see in lines from 5 to 8 the example of some valid cats data. And from this example, you can easily understand and comprehend the basic requirements to this data. Here we see that in the root of this data must be an object, line 5. And in this object must be two properties, ID, line 6, and name, line 7. And the type of the value of the ID property must be integer, and the value of the name property must be of type string. So this is obvious from an example. And if you want to add some other requirements which are not obvious from this example, you write rules. Rules are written in annotations, and they are written in a small JSON object. For example, I want to say that my ID must be equal or greater than 0. So I write a rule min 0. Also, I can write another rule, for example, max 999. This is just a JSON object, but you can write keys without quotes. So JSight API language will forgive you. Or if you want, of course, you can add quotes to these keys. You can find other details how to write schemas in JSight schema specification. It is here. Just click and find all the detailed information. So I have described you the main concepts of JSight API language, directives, schemas, and rules. So now you can start to describe your own APIs. You can find all the detailed documentation in the docs section. Quick tutorial in JSight API specification, JSight schema specification, but I do recommend you to use quick help, because in this page you can find all the directives, they're here in the first column, all the types, I mean embedded types, and all the rules you can use in JSight schema language. So you see it's quite a few. You can just click on some rule and find its details in the specification. Now I press the share button and save this example in the cloud, so you will find this example below the video. If you like JSight API language, please like this video, and also you will help us a lot if you give us a star on our GitHub page. To find our GitHub, just go to our official website, jsight.io, and find a link, star us on GitHub. Please do this, and this will motivate us a lot. In the next video, I will explain you how to use user types. See you. Bye.